For those who don't know me, I'm Rob Cowling. I'm a business development manager working at Irwin Mitchell, who are a large independent UK law firm. So we've got, just for context, we've got 15 offices up and down the country from as high as Glasgow right the way down to Southampton and pretty much everywhere in between in terms of the key financial centres where you would typically expect a law firm like us to be. We do business work, so acting for corporates. We do private client work, acting for individuals, and we do personal injury work, looking after people's health on the back of serious injury or illness or death. We have about 3,000 people in our business, of which roughly 2,800 of those are qualified lawyers. And my role at the firm is to support those lawyers in terms of looking after clients, so making sure that we're servicing them and that we're generating more work out of them across our broad range of services, and also obviously onboarding new clients into the business. I wear two hats in that respect. So I look after our sort of what we class as business wealth. So that's anybody who is an owner managed business, family business, or a senior exec. So somebody who's got an invested stake in a business who will need both professional and personal legal services throughout their career, from starting up right the way to exiting, succession, and into later life planning for them and their family. And I also look after our international strategy. So as a purely UK business, we do a lot of work overseas where our clients need advice in key jurisdictions beyond the UK, and we need to service that. But also foreign businesses that have an interest in the UK or want to come into the UK market or already have a UK subsidiary to their global HQ, or individuals who have got wealth and assets here in the UK and abroad, or just Joe Blogs on the street who's traveling on holiday and is involved in some sort of injury or accident. And we do that through an independent legal network where we work with other law firms and banks and accountants and the like who are independent in their country, and where they rely on a UK firm like us just as much as we rely on them as a US firm or as a French firm, for example. So it's a pretty diverse role, but really, really enjoyable. No one day is the same. Lots of collaboration required internally and externally with clients, all of which has been thrown up in the air with what we've been through in the last few months. So hopefully that paints a little bit of picture about me and the context of the business that I work in and support.
Absolutely. It sounds fascinating. And obviously, in a traditional sense, I would imagine that a lot of that collaboration happens face to face, meeting people up and down the country and obviously worldwide as well. So what has kind of working from home felt like for you and the wider teams?
Absolutely right. So a lot of our collaboration as a team is face to face, because we were doing that office by office, and a lot of our client interaction, for same as many businesses like us, a lot of that BD, a lot of that marketing was face to face, because we're in a relationship world and we build relationships, and that's what wins us work and that's what keeps us busy. So when the first lockdown was announced in early March, we essentially had to rip our BD strategy up to a complete 180 and look at how we could do that in a virtual, distanced world, but also how we could collaborate with our teams, with our fee earners, and with fellow BD colleagues, because I've got about another 30 or so BD colleagues up and down the country who look after different parts of the business, who I have to work with to support clients, and similarly with fee earners. So I think to start off with, we were quite lucky because we were on this sort of technology journey before lockdown. So we put together a sort of a 4-year plan of what we felt life would look like in a law firm and what our clients expected from a service and a technology perspective. So we were on that journey towards sort of becoming a more digital, more technological business, and that has served us well given the current climate, because that program has just been accelerated as a result of COVID and lockdown coming in overnight. So prior to lockdown, probably about 400 of our people had the ability and the facility to work agile, or to work from home, or to work remotely. We scaled that up to almost our entire 3,000 in about a week or so.
Wow.
which is a phenomenal transformation by any means. But it's meant that we've been able to collaborate, we've been able to interact, and we've been able to service clients just as well as we can face to face through a digital means. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not been easy. It's been challenging. We'd all much rather be in a face to face world, but we aren't, and we have to cope with that. Not all of it's been perfect, but we've managed to sustain our clients. We've managed to sustain the service levels that we promote and that clients expect. But equally, we've been able to engage internally, probably I would say actually better than we have before.
Really?
I mean, I think so, because I think if you think about it, before this, you were constrained to your office location. So I was headquartered out of Leeds, but I'd do a lot of work in London, in Gatwick, in Birmingham, Manchester. But that's requiring a lot of travel, obviously a lot of flexibility in your diary to allow for that. Now, working from home and having access to Microsoft Teams, which is the platform that we use, and other video means I've probably seen more of my team and my colleagues during the last few months than I had before, because they're readily available at the end of a video, rather than having to make sure that, are they going to be in that office when I travel? Are they going to have some time? Are they going to be available to have a catch up whilst I'm there? So you'd almost have to work 6 weeks in advance just to make sure that you could get together with that particular person or that group of people. Whereas now, I know that chances are they're going to be available at the touch of a video call, or if not, they'll call me back. And that FaceTime with colleagues is really important, especially at the moment. And it's probably meant that we've been significantly more collaborative and integrated in our service to clients as well, because we've been able to introduce multiple service lines into client relationships easier than we could have done before, because for the exact same reasons, we're not having to travel to the client, we're not having to make sure that they're available, we're not having to make sure that the other people in our team are available to travel and be there on that specific date. So there's been some significant positives actually to working in that virtual world, and kind of breaking down those internal barriers that are kind of our physical office presence, I would say.
That's fascinating. How well has it received then, on like a colleague level, when you're chatting with your colleagues? I mean, not everybody likes talking through a screen. How's that been working for you and for your colleagues?
I think it's worked well. I think, like you say, some conversations are much easier to do face to face, and you miss the body language, and you miss the facial expressions, and you miss the personality that comes with face to face, and that's hard. And it's really hard in a BD world when you're trying to prospect new clients, and we can touch on that later.
Yeah.
But I think with colleagues, it's been great, because look, I mean, this environment has been challenging on a number of fronts, both personally and professionally. So we've taken a lot of time to make sure that we've been available to talk to our colleagues and just show empathy and make sure that they're feeling all right, and actually just kind of say to them, look, it's all right not to be okay, if you know what I mean, and have those conversations. And actually, by doing that, you're building a much stronger personal relationship. I probably know my colleagues better now than I did before, because I've met the kids, I've met their animals, I've had a kind of through the keyhole look at what their life looks like outside of the office environment and in their home. Yeah. And all of that, I think, just builds an even stronger tie of kind of trust. And as a result of that, I think we've worked better together, we've worked more collaboratively. And I think that's been really recognised across the whole firm. I think we've had to have real strong team spirit to get through what we've been through as a business, and for our own mental and social well-being. And I think because we've done that, and we've got like a WhatsApp group for all of our team, just to share, I don't know, whether it's a video we've seen on TikTok, just to make each other laugh. We've had some of our guys doing TikTok dances at home, and we've had a TikTok dance-off competition.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, we've just done some really light-hearted stuff like that, because look, it's not all about work.
Yeah,
it's got to be that work-life balance, and that's hard at the minute because everything's from home. And we've just tried to make sure that we're bringing that into our day-to-day, just to show that, you know, we are mindful of what some people are having to go through at the minute, especially those who have got kids and who are being asked to be a lawyer, being asked to be a client relationship manager, being asked to be a teacher, a parent, a guardian, a social carer for their parents who might be vulnerable and isolating. That's really, really hard, managing all of that from home whilst trying to do the day job as well. And I think it's important that we recognise that, and every decision we've taken as a business throughout this whole period has been with our people's well-being and best interests in mind. And as a result of that, I think we've built a stronger people base, I'd say a more engaged. I'd also say kind of probably more loyal people base as well. I mean, I think on the back of this, I think we're going to have an even stronger employer brand than we've had before because of the decisions we've taken.
Yeah.
So I think to answer your question, yes, I think it has been really well received. It's not been easy, but I think the fact that we've all been there to support one another and we've all been sort of spending time together with one another, getting to know each other better, I think that's put us in a position of strength when it comes to building the business and looking after our people.
Absolutely, that's so pleasing to hear. And like you say, you've kind of spent this time together but time apart, but all kind of focusing on the same things and trying to, you're doing this together essentially. Like this is the first time we've all been kind of forced to work from home, and we all knew that we could work in a flexible way, in a flexible world, but actually I think, like you say, we've learned so much about each other. You're not the first person to say that to me, and it's really kind of nice and refreshing to hear, because it's a nice thing to come out of a terrible time, isn't it? The fact that
it is, and it's things like that you hope would actually stick around once we do get back to whatever normal looks like, because I think it's all made us reflect on how we work, where we work, how long we work, and how much time we spend away from families. And did I really need to go all the way to London on a train for that meeting? Could I have just done it on video? I mean, granted, we didn't have Microsoft Teams beforehand, so there wasn't really an option if it wanted to be a face-to-face meeting, but we have now. So will that change my perception of how often I travel and where I travel and why I travel? Absolutely. So I think it will make us all think and reflect about quite how we perform our duties beyond this. And I think we'll be stronger for it. Clients' expectations are changing as well in terms of how we service them, and should they always have to be coming to our office, or should we always be having to go to them to do that, to service work? Probably not. There'll be instances where we'd absolutely want to do that. Face-to-face will always be important and will always be there, but it won't be everything. And I think, in fact, what we've been through and what we've learned and how we're now using technology will actually put us in a stronger position when it comes to integrating as a team and working together, but equally how we service clients going forward. And we're seeing that already in spades in some of the examples that we're doing with clients. And I don't think that'll go away, nor do I want it to.
Yeah. Moving on to clients then, and kind of existing clients and potentially new clients, like one aspect of your role, I'm guessing, is around networking. Is it even possible to network whilst you're working from home?
It is. It's one of a lot of the memberships and affiliations and partnerships that we're part of, who do regular sort of networking and physical events throughout the year, they've put all of those online, which is brilliant. It's great that we've still been able to take advantage of that. But the biggest criticism that we have coming back from that is that it's just not the same from a networking experience perspective, because you're not walking into a room with a few people who you can just start a conversation with. But there are platforms who are addressing that, and there's now, some of them have got networking breakout rooms. Zoom do some good stuff around that, and some dedicated programs which are brilliant. But I don't think it will ever replace the proper face-to-face networking and the benefits that brings, for all of the reasons I mentioned earlier about just being able to sort of take a temperature gauge on that body language that you're getting back, and building that warmth and trust that ultimately then leads to a flourishing relationship. That being said, you can absolutely network in a virtual world, but I think where that's easier is where you've got that network already. So I was quite lucky coming into this situation, in that I have got a good network sat behind me who I can comfortably pick up the phone to or set up a Teams call with and have that conversation, because we've already got that trust and that relationship. And we've put a focus around those existing clients who we've got, where we've got those strong relationships, and we've put an arm around them to help them through this period. And we've used that to really open them up to other parts of our business. So we're doing networking by virtue of existing clients by saying, oh, you should really speak to Joanne Bowen, our data protection team, given all the data issues you're having, or you've just sold your business. What are you thinking about doing with your wealth and your assets beyond that, and how are you going to protect your family? Let me bring our private client team into that so you can have a conversation with them. That's been a lot easier to do through this period by having access to that through video than having to set up sessions and check schedules, as I mentioned earlier. And that's meant that we're broadening the networks of our wider firm, introducing them to albeit new clients, but that are existing clients of the business. But we've done very well out of that by extending our services into more clients, which is brilliant. It's very, very hard to do cold prospecting. Yeah. From that sense, and I'm sure a lot of others you'll hear the same, because it's just not the same. You haven't got that relationship. It's hard to entice them into a conversation on video, whereas it would have been easier to do it over a dinner at an event, or just nipping out for coffee or whatever. But I think where we've found success with that is in a couple of ways. So one is we've lent on existing relationships and used them to almost act as a bit of an ambassador or a champion for the brand. So we've been saying to them, look, we've done this for you. We've helped you through this. Do you have contacts in your network who you think would benefit from a similar conversation? Could you introduce us? Could you come on the call with us and play a little bit of a facilitator for that? So again, you're overcoming that trust piece because they're already sat next to somebody who is giving that credibility on our behalf. So that's one way that it's worked quite well. The other way is we've been doing a huge amount of webinar and virtual roundtable and fireside chat conversations around topical issues through the lens of COVID, through the lens of Brexit, through the lens of just general sector disruption. And we've been inviting some of our cold prospects onto that to just listen to what we're having to say, meeting some of our other clients who were on there. So it's a networking opportunity for them because they're meeting new contacts. And we've had a good few examples where contacts have come on cold and said, that was really useful. I've actually picked up with X, Y, and Z off the back of it. And now we're having a session because I think there's some opportunity for us to do business together. So we're actually helping some of our clients and prospects do new business through introducing them to some of our clients. And by virtue, that's reflecting well on us. We're then following up on it, and they're much more warm and open to having a conversation with us off the back of it. And then I suppose the final thing on that side is just using our international network. So I've probably seen more of our international best friend referrers in the last 6 months than I've seen in the 3 years previous.
Wow.
Because if we're going to do a trip to the US, or we're going to do a trip to Asia, or we're going to do a trip to Europe, again, you'd have to scope that out. We'd have to think carefully about who we're sending. We'd have to get all of that booked and set up in advance. And whereas now you can just drop a line and say, should we have a quick catch-up call next week just to see how things are going? What's the pandemic looking like in your environment, in your jurisdiction? What sort of trends are you seeing on legal work that's coming through? Do you think that'll come into the UK? Just those types of conversations, and that's keeping our referral activity up because we're doing that and we're getting more people in front of them. We're again reinforcing the point that we're the right firm to be using in the UK, and they're then proactively putting us in touch with their clients again through an endorsement and a recommendation. So again, as hard as the virtual world is to build new business, it's just about using your network and finding ways to facilitate that. Yeah. And I think if you've got somebody who is acting as an introducer or as a champion ambassador, then we're finding that those prospects are more than happy to have a conversation with us. No obligation, of course. They can walk away and they don't have to take our advice and use us. But 9 times out of 10 is providing us with a follow-up opportunity, and then they're becoming part of our client relationship program, and then before you know it, we're bringing them on board as a new client. So we've, despite the difficulties, we've certainly seen benefits, but it's because we've really got on the front foot with our BD activity, and we've gone out of our way to be there to support clients and prospects when some other firms may not have taken that approach or may have furloughed key staff. So they're reviewing their options and looking at where they need a potential new relationship, and we've been at the front of the queue to try and make sure that we're the firm they turn to.
Absolutely. It sounds like you've got yourself in such a great position to begin with, in terms of, you know, already having a good foothold in terms of like your digital transformation, getting everybody on board internally, and then kind of working in a collaborative way with your wider networks to kind of help each other out. So yeah, it's fascinating to see how that's working for you. I guess then the experiences of the past nearly 12 months now of kind of working differently, working from home, how do you think it might shape your industry in the future, and even maybe the way that you work individually in the future?
If I take my role first, I mean, as I said to you earlier, I was on a typical sort of Monday to Friday in the office. Yes, I could work agile, so I do the odd day from home and I do the odd day remotely from a client's premises or from a coffee shop or on a train or on a plane or whatever. But largely I was out of the house, on the road, seeing clients and being in the office. I will want to continue doing that. Absolutely. Definitely want to be doing that at least 2 or 3 days a week, because FaceTime, networks, exposure, new conversations is what I love doing. I love meeting new people and finding out about them and what really piques their interest, what makes them tick, how I can help them directly or indirectly. And I don't want any of that to go away from a face-to-face perspective. This is the bit of the job that I love the most. But do I need to be doing that in the office and on the road 5 days a week? Absolutely not. Do I want to do that? No. Have I enjoyed spending time at home? We moved into a new house 18 months ago, so it's been great to be in the house during that period and to be doing bits to it in and amongst work. I spend more time with the dogs and be out in the countryside exploring where I live. We found parts of the village and West Yorkshire that we never knew were there on our doorstep, which is just absolutely stunning, and so lucky to have that at our disposal during what's been a difficult period, especially for those who have been stuck in high-rise flats in the city with no garden or outdoor space. So I don't want any of that flexibility to go away. Now I've seen that I can do that and work and do my job just as comfortably sat here at home as I can do in the office or on the road. So I think for me, it'll be a case of, yes, definitely get back into seeing colleagues and seeing clients physically and being in the office and traveling, but probably on a much reduced basis than what it was before, because I find I've got a much better work-life balance now. Like I say, it's been hard, and some days you're online constantly. Had that yesterday. I was online at 7 a.m, finished about 6 at night. You just feel like you're on video permanently. But then you can offset that by being able to just nip out at lunchtime and take the dogs for a walk, or finish a bit earlier to take advantage of the take advantage of the light before it gets dark. Now that we're into the winter period, for example. So I think for me there'll be that change, certainly. I think, how will it impact the industry? Look, legal has been one of those industries that's been very traditional. There's been some kind of long established ways of working that have stood the test of time, and I think that is in for big change. I think the legal industry was changing before this.
Yeah,
you've got more artificial intelligence, you've got more kind of bespoke technology-led firms coming in. You've got consumer brands who are building a legal structure now. You've got accountants who are starting to move into the legal space. So I think this will change it. It'll change client expectations in terms of how we work. It'll change clients' expectations in terms of how we charge. Should we be charging London rates now, because are you going to be using a lawyer in London when actually they're working from home? Question mark. So I think there will be a big change and a big shift. But I think one thing that won't go away is the importance of that client relationship, the importance of understanding them and their business, and that need to really get under the skin of what they're trying to achieve, the issues they're facing, and how we can support them through that. And we'll be supporting them through a combination of technology and a combination of face-to-face, because some clients will still want that. So I think there will be change, but I think it'll be change for the better, if I'm honest.
Sounds really exciting. Is it something you look forward to?
It is, yeah. It'll be challenging, just like the last 12 months have been. But that's what makes the job fun. Like I say, I think businesses and individuals are going through unprecedented change and disruption at the minute, and that's before we even know what Brexit really means. We're becoming more global in our footprint and in our operations, and with all of that comes legal change and the need for guidance and advice. And for us, that presents a real opportunity. As long as we are putting the effort into the client relationship and servicing them to their expectations. But like I say, we're not perfect by any means, but I think we've got a solid structure and infrastructure to work from. And I'm quite excited about what the future looks like and how we can continue to support clients, both directly in terms of what we do as part of our legal and financial advice, but indirectly through our wider client and relationship network, and how we can use introductions to help them benefit by being more collaborative with some of our clients as well.
You mentioned Brexit there, and not to get in any way political, how much of that is giving you a headache or on your minds at the moment?
I mean, look, it's a headache for all businesses and individuals at the minute, because there's just a complete lack of certainty. The only thing that is certain is uncertainty. And I think what we've tried to do with our clients is we've tried to say, look, despite all the noise out there, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So prepare on a no deal WTO basis. Make sure that your structures and your supply chain and your people are robust. And if a deal does come along, then you can adapt that accordingly, but it'll be less of a worst case scenario than you plan for. So I think we're trying to cut through some of the clutter and give some guidance around things that we know are going to change. So we know there are going to be impacts on movement of people, movement of goods and services, movement and use of data, for example, regulatory frameworks, tax, duties. We know there is going to be change there, whether there is a deal or not. And so we try to cut through the clutter and give some top line, straightforward guidance on that. And that seems to be working. We're getting some good engagement and we're supporting clients. And at the same time, we are just constantly horizon scanning, constantly insight gathering, just to make sure that as and when change happens and occurs, we're on the front foot for it, and we can pass that on and we can guide and advise clients as appropriate. I think we have been just as concerned as anybody else, because we're a business. We are run as a PLC rather than as a law firm. So we've really seriously looked at our people, our operations, our supply, our technology needs, to make sure that we're robust and sustainable for as and when Brexit happens. Because look, we've got people who are EU nationals in our business, and we need to make sure that they feel comfortable and confident that the business is well protected and is in a strong position, regardless of which way it goes. So yes, it is a concern. Yes, it is frustrating that we're having to wait so long for the actual guidance around just what Brexit looks like, but we, just like other businesses, can't afford to wait for that. And that's why our advice and guidance has always been around, look, prepare on a no deal basis, and you'll at least limit a large proportion of your risk.
Yeah, absolutely. My final question, we've talked a lot, really appreciate this, because it's really insightful and really interesting to hear what you've been doing. Coming back to you and kind of working from home, it sounds like you've got a really nice balance. How do you manage that balance, and what advice would you give to others that might be struggling at the moment?
I think the first thing you've got to do is recognise that work isn't everything. Typical contracting hours have pretty much gone out the window, in my view. Others might not share the same, but that's my view. And I mean, I'm lucky that the business is very supportive and flexible of us. So they're saying, look, don't feel like you have to work your normal hours. Don't feel like you have to be online permanently. Make sure that you take time for you, and make sure that you get that downtime and that headspace, because they know I'll be in a better position to support the business if I'm doing that. So my big tip to people would be block some time out for you. Now that could be a consistent period of time on a daily basis that you take just for you, or that could be chopping and changing it every few days. But I think just block out an hour, a couple of hours a day to do what you would typically do if you were in an office environment. So I've got colleagues who do an office commute even though they're not going to the office. So they'll get ready in the morning just like they're going to go to work. They'll jump in the car. They will drive the typical 30, 45 hour long journey. Yeah. And they'll do it in a route and then come back home and then come in the house and start working, because they see that as downtime where they'd normally listen to the radio, take in the news. Sometimes they take the kids in the car and do it as well, just so they've almost like they're doing the school run when the schools were closed originally. So things like that. A lot of us have taken up running just to get out and get some fresh air and get some of the adrenaline going and the endorphins going, because again, that means a healthier brain that you can come back and then start taking advantage of, for example. So I think the key thing for me is, look, just try and get some sort of routine into life at home, even though you are essentially moving from the bedroom to a study or to the kitchen or to the living room. I did an article actually on LinkedIn when lockdown first happened, just around my own experiences and some sort of practical tips that I found that worked for me. And you can find that on my profile. I'm very, very happy for you to take a look at that and have a read. But they were just my reflections. But it is all about taking time for you, blocking it out so that people can't jump on it and put a Teams call in or a video call. And, separating parts of your house as well. So make sure that at 6 o'clock you leave your laptop and you move to a different room and actually have that family time, and don't have the distraction of your laptop or your work staring at you, because if you do that, you'll just continue to log on and work into the night because it becomes addictive. Yeah. So they are things that I've found have worked for me. And like I say, it's not perfect. I have my up days and have my down days. Sometimes I don't get that time. But when I do, it's really valuable and precious, and I feel a heck of a lot better for doing it. So just take time out and look after you is what I would say, because you're the only person who's going to do that. Nobody else will do it for you.
Wise words. Very wise words. Thank you so much, Rob. I really enjoyed chatting with you about this. And hopefully in the not too distant future, we might be able to have this conversation with a coffee somewhere in Leeds.
Oh, God, wouldn't it be great? I'm getting sick of the powdered coffee in my kettle, to be honest. So.
Maybe you should add a coffee machine to your Christmas list.
Well, I might just have to do that. It's not a bad show.
Thank you.
Brilliant. My pleasure. Very welcome, and thanks for the opportunity.
No problem. Thank you.